Welcome to the Online Great Books podcast, brought to you by onlinegreatbooks.com, where we talk about the good life, the great books, great conversation, and great ideas. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Scott Hambrick.
And I'm Karl.
And today we're going to discuss how we read.
Yeah, so we're kind of doing a free-form podcast today. Have not done a huge amount of prep. And it's not about any particular book. It's about all the books.
The process.
Yeah, it might be some good process stuff, but, well, okay, so here's the problem. I posted this question on our Slack channel. I wanted some help. And so I said, a call for opinions. How do you actually read? We all know the Adler ideal, but what do you do in the real world? Respond in the thread, and you might make it into the podcast. And listener Scott from Tulsa responded, I read like a drowning man. And I think he cheated.
How so?
Well, my question was more about the material cause, and you gave me a final cause answer.
Right.
Yeah, I wanted to know the nuts and bolts. How do you do it? What kind of pen do you use? You know, do you have a note-taking method? Do you have a special chair? And you went big picture and poetic, I might add.
Thank you.
Uncharacteristically poetic for you.
How dare.
And you get mad at me for talking about owls in a detective story. You read like a drowning man. So I want to know, what does that mean?
Lots of gasping and flailing.
Well, that's one way to take it. So gasping and flailing. In other words, you don't think you do it well?
No, I don't. I don't think I do. I mean, I do well enough, I think. I mean, I can get on here and speak with you and not get lost. But when you read these things, you know, the show that went out actually this morning, we're recording here on Thursday, the 21st of November. The show that went out this morning was about Aristotle's Ethics. Book 1 of Aristotle's Ethics. And when I read something like that, I'm just surviving. I'm getting what I can. I'm doing the best I can. I'm not drowning, but I'm certainly inefficient. I don't have a beautiful breaststroke.
Yeah, so I like that. That's not the interpretation I was thinking of for it, but I like it.
What's your interpretation?
I want to know what you're drowning in.
It's just too much. I mean, the whole darn thing. You know, Aristotle's Ethics. He brings his whole being to that book. Mm-hmm. You know, his logic, his metaphysics,
So you think you're drowning in Aristotle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing to do.
It is.
It's like drowning in lip gloss or something.
I put a little picture on our Slack channel. It's terrible. I am not much of an artist. But I have a hand coming out of the water, holding onto a book. I had to redraw. All of my hands look like a bunch of bananas. Hands are the hardest thing to draw. If you want to have people impressed really quickly, just learn how to draw a hand.
Yeah, but you don't need to. Charles Schultz never got it down.
No, he never figured it out. But the hand is holding a book. It's like thrust out of the water. It's holding a book. And I have stormy waves behind it. And then I have the sun beating down and some vultures circling, or maybe pelicans, and a shark fin.
Yes.
So for me, this is I was thinking of more things about reading like a drowning man than just the method. I was thinking, what am I drowning in? And why do I want to read instead of do that stuff?
Right.
So this is the thing about when you get poetical, Mr. Hambrick, when you get...
I know, that's the problem.
It's left somewhat vague, and it gives you some free play with your imagination to figure out what you think about it. And I've been thinking about it. A lot of people liked your drowning man thing. Tiago says, I like that thought. A man when he is drowning values every breath, not because he has time to think of its worth. He values it because he is violently fighting for it, for he knows what it is to breathe. I'd like to think, read as one who knows that he can, and that with every word there just may be a new breath to breathe, which is pretty poetic. Deep stuff there. Yeah, because he feels like he's drowning. I'm presuming Tiago I'm presuming his pronoun.
It's fine.
I haven't met him in the seminar yet, so I don't know.
Being waterboarded by Aristotle.
Well, I think I'm being waterboarded by the culture in general.
Me too.
which has images and sounds, and it wants me to care about stuff so much. It wants me to care about stuff that matters so little, but wants me to care about it very, very much. And they're trying to drown you, I can think. I mean, it feels like it to me. And so if I want to read Aristotle, I'm reaching for clarity. I'm reaching up to the sun. So that's why I have the sun in my little picture. That these books are better, more solid, more like land. You're laughing at me now.
No, it's just so funny. Like, you wanted to dive into these sort of metaphors and stuff, you know?
Yep.
And I'm like, this is where I was going to say, I carry my little 6-inch wooden ruler with me, and I love this brand of index card, and I use my finger.
Yeah.
And
Well, you're the one who threw out the poetry. It's not my fault.
Lesson learned. Never doing it again.
But it's what the people love. So yeah. I think we need poems by Scott.
Here I sit, hips a-flexin', giving birth to a newborn Texan.
But you're from Oklahoma.
That's right.
Did you ever read Ogden Nash?
Yeah. Yes.
The turtle lives twixt plated decks that practically serve to conceal its sex. How clever of the turtle in such a fix to be so fertile.
I didn't read mine in Ogden Nash. I saw it on the back of a toilet stall door.
Oh, I get it. So you could be in Oklahoma and giving birth to another Texan. I get it.
Texan,
this is regional humor. Yes. Yeah.
Around that same time, I was in a bathroom, and they had the little thing with the toilet seat covers, that little paper, that dispenser thing on the wall, and it said, "Free cowboy hats." And I laughed.
Bathroom poetry.
Yeah, construction site stuff.
I've seen Jesus saves written in there, and then somebody writes, but on the rebound, Gretzky scores. Back in the days when we cared about hockey. So I'm sorry, but I thought that was... Look, it's just suggestive. You know, once you get the why you're going to read, then all of the mechanics of... The cheat is that Scott did kind of... I think he did the why, but maybe he only intended the how. But once you get the why, the desperation to read this stuff because it's so good or because it helps you in some way, then all of this other stuff we'll talk about, like pens and ink and notebooks, and that makes more sense. You know, the final cause is what determines everything else. So Aristotle had 4 causes, 4 ways to explain why a thing exists or how it exists. And there's material, efficient, formal, and final. Material is what it's made of. Formal is the shape, probably like the blueprint. Efficient is the workman who put it together. And then final is, why do you need it in the first place? And so the lumber would be the material cause of the house, but the final cause of the house is because you want to live in it. So if you know the final cause, why do you want to read, then all of the other aspects and details of how to do it start to make sense. So I'm sorry for that detour.
No, that's good. Yeah, back to the causes. If your final cause is for entertainment, you're going to read in a different way than if your final cause is understanding or enlightenment, or if you're attempting to read improving books.
Yeah, improving books. So when I read for entertainment, I read stuff usually in the car via Audible, or when I'm falling asleep, I'll read my entertainment stuff. Because I can't take notes. I'm not really worried about taking notes. I'm reading about, I don't know, some detective story or a space opera. And right now they're fighting the aliens. Mm-hmm. Craig Allison's expeditionary force. Once again, Colonel Joe and his loyal artificial intelligence sidekick Skippy are attempting to beat back the aliens. Those of you who have read this will know what I'm talking about. And it's occasionally touching, but mostly it's just funny. But you can gallop right through those books. You don't need to have much of a technique except keep reading and enjoy it.
Yeah, they're diversionary. They're a little palate cleanser. Karl, do they let you escape clown world for just a moment?
They do. Even a silly novel. A silly novel is probably better entertainment than good television.
I think so.
And there is good television out there, but it's still passive. And you're just sitting there agape, watching what they're having you watch. A book's a little bit different than that. You have to think your way through it, even if it's just something fun.
So reading even a silly book is not passive. So are you an active reader then, Karl?
Yeah. You're trying to figure out what's going on in the story. There's usually puzzles in the stories to be figured out. Why is this character doing this? What's the motivation? You feel like you know these people and you want to know what they're doing. You want to understand them. People who read a lot tend to do better on empathy because you've had a whole lot of people run through your brain.
Yeah, imaginative literature is mostly about people.
Well, mine is about robots and aliens.
But the robots in your novel, I would suspect, are just different kinds of people for the purposes of writing anyway, or storytelling.
Yes, that's true. It's very hard to write an alien.
Right. We can't conceive of that. They probably look like, a planarian or something, and there'd be just nothing to say about it.
Yeah.
A flatworm.
Yeah. Orson Scott Card does that in Ender's Game. God, he tries to write an alien. The aliens are bug critters that have telepathy, and so they have no idea about language, and they have no way to say, we're sorry we massacred you.
Right. That's a good one.
That's a classic.
Let's talk about how you take in, or how we both take in, that fun reading. Let's talk about that first. You do a lot of audiobooks in those cases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll do that too sometimes, but I don't think I do it as often as you do. So I'll pick them up and read them.
So at night, I'll flip the book light on, and I'll read until I forget what I just read. Yeah, and then I put it down and go to bed. I couldn't do that with a book that I absolutely need to remember what I read,
because sometimes my understanding of it is barely better than my understanding when I'm about to fall asleep.
Yeah,
I mean, really.
Yeah. So for a reading of the deeper, more serious stuff, at night before you go to bed is a lousy time. Mm-hmm. I used to play a little bit of computer chess. It's too stressful to play against other people, but I would try playing chess against my computer before I went to bed. No good. My ELO was about 500 points lower. It was never real high, but it'd be a whole lot lower at 11:30 at night than it was at 9 a.m. So timing is important on this. For fun stuff that you don't really care about, go ahead and read it before bedtime.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're going to do really well with Aristotle right before you go to bed.
No. If I'm reading for fun, I'm not taking any notes. I'm going fast.
Yep.
I'm not reading for understanding. But that's not first and foremost for me when I'm reading a Louis L'Amour novel.
Yeah, well, compare it. So when you go to fine dining and you have the best food that you can get, are you going to eat it as fast as you do at the buffet?
It's hard not to.
It's hard not to.
It is hard not to, but no, I don't want to.
Yeah, because there's more to it. There's more to enjoy than, or if you're going to drink a Coors Banquet versus Weller 12, you're going to drink them a little bit differently because there's more to the Weller. There's more to taste.
Yeah.
So take your time and do it right. And it would be ridiculous for me to sit here. I don't have a beer right now because it's lunchtime. And I cleaned up my empties. Oh no, here I do. I have a Tecate, which is about on the level of the Coors. It'd be absurd for me to sit there with my glass, my snifter, and telling you about the notes of birch,
right,
and summer breezes, and the hint of lemon in my Tecate. It's a mass-produced beer. It's okay, but it's not great.
Right. I can read. I'll just stay with the Louis L'Amour. A 225-page Louis L'Amour novel is about average. There's some that are bigger. There's definitely some that are smaller than that. I could knock one of those out in 3 or 4 hours, 3 hours, 2.5 hours. Don't follow along with my finger. I'm not taking any notes. I don't have a pencil with me. I'm not doing much rereading. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm plowing through it. It's an aesthetic experience.
You've probably got some of the speed reading techniques that you figured out just naturally by reading so fast. I read pretty quickly too. I have a daughter that reads faster than me, and I don't believe she's read it, and then I have to quiz her, and she has. But you kind of go down the middle of the page.
You catch the first and last parts of the sentence of the line, not the sentence, but the line, kind of with your peripheral vision.
Yeah, and you will find you're not going word for word.
No, you're not. You're not reading conjunctions. You're not reading articles.
I don't think it's important to have those techniques mastered for the sorts of reading we're doing. No. Maybe for something like Herodotus, which you just have to keep going and not get bogged down. But you're not going to be speed reading Aristotle. You're not going to be speed reading Thomas Hobbes.
Well, let's talk about Aristotle.
Yes.
Well, do we have anything else to say about just the sort of fun reading?
I don't know. I encourage it.
It should be fun, right?
Yeah.
Don't make yourself miserable. Don't worry about getting too much of it. Don't try to wring every drop out of it. Have fun with it.
And it's okay to put a book down.
Boy, you ought to.
If you pick up the latest, I'm blanking out on popular authors. You pick out the latest thing from the New York Times bestseller list. I don't know why you would, but you do. And you read 50 pages of it and you say, I don't think so. It's okay.
Throw it over your shoulder. Move on.
Yeah.
We don't live long enough for that kind of stuff. I've been working my way through Aristotle's Politics. I think it's my second trip through it. I've done an inspectional reading. We'll talk about Adler's How to Read a Book here in a moment, I think. I know I've done an inspectional reading of the thing a couple of times, and this is probably my second analytical reading of it, where I'm trying to read for more understanding. I'm reading in a big old heavy complete works edition of the thing. It's a hardback. So I use my trusty Songmix, Songmix, bamboo lap desk with tilting top. You can see it. Karl can see it here on the webcam. It's a big, heavy book. If I sit there and hold that thing, I get tired. And I make notes, so I need to have my hands free some, too. So I can put it on this little stand here and put it right where my bifocals need it to be. And it's much less tiring to read it. I love my reading desks. I have 3 of them.
I think you're going to need to provide a link.
We could do that.
In the show notes.
Yeah, you can buy that thing from the Devil Bezos at Amazon.com. Songmix, Songmix, bamboo lap desk. You can't miss it. It's probably $27, something like that.
Wow. Yeah, that looks good. I think I need to have one of those. That's like, you look like you're a monk in a scriptorium.
Right. And it's got legs too. So you can, I can pick it up and the little legs flop out so you can put it across your lap when you're sitting in a chair. Kind of like a dinner tray kind of thing, maybe.
Is it okay if I order while we're talking?
I'll order away. So I put that on there. And this little darling here has a little drawer. And the drawer has my favorite pencils in it and some extra note cards. Don't normally need them, but, take it out to the porch. You want to make sure you got plenty of supplies.
Yeah. Well, that looks good. You have to write in your book.
Yes.
You have to. And if you're reluctant to do this, you can call me. I will come over to your house and I will scribble in your books. And now they're ruined, and now you just might as well.
It's like being married and not swap and spit with your wife. You got to get intimate with this book.
Yeah, make it your own. There's a gateway drug that I like. I like the Pilot friction pens.
I don't know these.
They have an ink that when you heat it up, the ink vanishes.
Oh.
The pigment vanishes.
Cool.
And you heat it up with the eraser end. It's not actually an eraser. It's just to heat the paper a little bit and get I'm not sure of the science of it, but to get the pigment to go away. So if you decide that you don't like a note or you want to be able to take the note out, the friction's a good way to do it. You could do it with a pencil too, but with pencils, I'm always worried about sharpening them. Fiddling with the sharpener all the time.
Sharpener. I use pencils. I don't use pens. Actually, I have a pen and a pencil. This is so nerdy, you people. I'm sorry. I use a 5mm Eversharp, mechanical pencil to mark in the book.
Yeah, that's too sharp for me. I would use a 7.
7.
See, we're getting nerdy.
Yeah. Well, I'm too ham-handed to use a 7. It's like it's like a kid with the big fat crayons. I just get it all over.
You have a fine hand.
Why, thank you.
The penmanship is tiny,
Yes.
and I have a big scrawl. I can't write that small. This is fun stuff to talk about. So we can get into the mechanics of it. He's holding up his rulers and things. So you use the rulers to underline?
Yes, right.
You don't freehand underline? I freehand it.
It leads to bedwetting. You gotta have good straight lines. And then I use the Jetstream Uniball blue 1 millimeter ink pen to make my notes on my note cards.
Yeah. Now, this is kind of like talking about squat shoes.
Right.
In our other avocation.
There are no wrong answers.
Yeah, you got to find something that you like. If you spend forever, and I've done this, I have a whole bunch of weightlifting shoes. I might have a shoe problem. I have a whole bunch of note-taking devices and techniques and pens and note cards and a little box. They're all good.
Yep.
You have to find one that you're willing to use and then just use it. I like Evernote. I have a problem keeping notes. Stuff that you've written in a book will stay there, but it's not searchable, and you have to remember. I got the idea from Scott from Malachi Walsh. So I have been taking notes on cards, and I have a scanner, and I can put the pile of cards in it and press go, and it'll suck them all through to a drive on my computer, and then I upload them to Evernote, and I put them into my card box. So if I have notes, like I have a bunch of notes on Lonesome Dove. We might talk about Lonesome Dove at some point.
We need to.
I have a big stack of Lonesome Dove notes, but I also have them on Evernote. So, if I have another flood in my basement and lose all my cards, it's up on Evernote. I like gadgets. I have some tablets that I can take notes on. I like e-ink. I don't like looking at a bright screen, so I have a couple varieties of those. And the one I like is the Onyx Books, Boox. They're a little bit... they're big Android tablets with an e-ink Kindle screen. And so if I take a note, like I took notes for this podcast, I can sync it straight up to Evernote. And it'll show up in a folder there. So I can have it forever from whatever computer I'm at. I want to keep this stuff because I had the thoughts once. I want to be able to look at them again.
Yeah, the thing about these books, these great books, is you're probably not gonna read them just one time,
right?
And you're gonna want those notes. Malachi has gotten me to use the note cards. Now you're using the note cards, and one of the reasons I love that so much is because when I read them, if you're in a great books group and you're going to have a book discussion, you can take your notes, your note cards, and put them in the book on the pages they correspond to, and that's your meeting prep. That's really nice. And then if you read the book again, when you read the book again, you can make more notes and just shuffle them right in where they go and expand your note set. Karl and I, Karl more than me, but we will lead seminars on these books, and we have to revisit them over and over and over again. And the people that are members at Online Great Books, they'll read a book. They'll read, let's say, the Iliad, and then they move on in our program. And I bet 15% of our people reread the Iliad within 2 years.
Yeah,
and they're going to have their notes set there. Malachi's note-taking, you know what? We need to have him on to talk about this. His note-taking method isn't much different from what Mrs. Banks taught me when I was in high school and had to do my senior paper. I use 4x6 cards. You could use 3x5. You could use half sheets of paper. It doesn't matter. But not a full sheet, something smaller. And you put pretty much one idea per card. And that's the way I do it, at least. And, we've got in the top left-hand corner, the author, and then I'll have the book. For I'm reading Aristotle, so then it'll be the Becker numbers.
Yeah.
For the thing. Or it could be a page number or something like that.
I'll put a keyword or two sometimes up on the top right corner. Yeah. And I also I'm holding this up since we're doing show and tell, even though you can't see. I have a 13-pocket coupon organizer. I don't remember where I bought this. Office Max or something. Target. Maybe I got it at Target. So I have a bunch of blank cards in here, stored in there, so I can grab my book, and if I'm going to the beach or somewhere I don't want to bring gadgets are distracting. Even my fancy note-taking gadgets are a little distracting. So sitting there with your book and a pencil and your cards and just diving in, I think there's something to recommend that. But having the notes, then you can go home, and if you get one of these scanners, aren't that expensive. If you want to make it, if you keep it forever, dump it in the scanner, upload it, put it in your file. But when you actually, one of the things about reading is you don't have to just do it in your office.
Right.
You can do it wherever. You can do it on the bus.
You should do it wherever. Look at this. This right here, Karl, is books 1 and 2 of politics. 40 note cards, something like that. Nuts and bolts, man. I really like my reading stand. If I don't have it, if I go to a coffee place and I'm reading, I will put something, I'll take the napkin dispenser and flip the thing over and prop my book up on it. Mm-hmm. I've got bifocals, man. I'm telling you, if I can put that book where it needs to be, it just goes so much easier for me.
I probably should have bifocals, but I'm raging against the dying of the light.
So give in, submit.
But if you think about it, if you are a more mature person with eyes that don't focus that well, and you put the book at the focal point, but it's laying flat on a table, part of your book is at your comfortable focal point, and the other part isn't. So if you have one of those tables, you can have the thing be parallel to your face.
So good, guys.
Or closer to parallel to your face. And then it's less of an effort. It's a physical effort to focus your eyes.
Yeah.
And you'll get tired sooner. And your reading session will be shorter.
Yeah. So I get that thing right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to fight the book. Some of these fat books, some of these heavy books, you can fight them. And I don't want to fight the book. And I also have good lighting here in my office. Of course, if I read outside, there's almost always good reading outside. If your book's not getting wet, the light's good out there. And I have pendant lighting here. I've got a track light in my office, and I have pendants and things in here, and I can aim lights. And I have a 300 Kelvin LED spotlight that shines right there on that book.
I have a spotlight. I like it. I occasionally get migraines. I don't like bright lights, except when I need them. They're usually light triggered. So I'll sit here in the dark and have the light on the book.
Yep.
And not much other light.
And this light's overhead, so I don't cast a shadow on it. It's great. And then I open the darn thing up and I read. I need to read in a chunk, man. 15 minutes of Aristotle is no Aristotle. I'm going to get started. I may have to read the piece, the first 10 minutes. I might have to read that again. It takes me a minute to get that, whoever it is, it takes me a minute to get that pace, to get that rhythm, to whatever, to turn the rest of the clown world off, whatever it is. I find that I don't get much good.
It's not always clown world. It can be your kids.
That's what I mean. Yeah, right. Yeah, it takes me a while to center myself.
I think I'm a bit like a lawnmower, an old lawnmower. It takes a while to get it started.
Right.
And then you don't want to shut it off. You want to do a good chunk of the lawn because you're not sure you're going to get it started again.
Right. What's your minimum reading dose to get any good done?
Oh, I think about half an hour.
Yeah, half an hour to 45 minutes, I think. If I go longer than about an hour and 15, I start messing up. I'll find, oh, gosh, I don't remember what I've read. Or I'm going through the motions and I have to stop, stand up, go away, do something, and come back.
Yeah. And it's okay to do that. So I wanted to talk about timing, when to do it, and then there's how long to do it. If you're having trouble getting into this, I like the Pomodoro technique. I believe Pomodoro means tomato.
Yeah, I think
and it's from the name of a tomato timer, like a little plastic tomato that was a timer. And you set yourself down, and you might have to physically do this. We have so many distractions. Turn your phone off. Don't just mute it. Turn it off or leave it outside of your reading room. If you have a computer in your reading room, you might want to not or turn away from it. And maybe just start 20 minutes. 20 minutes for some of these books would be fine. Probably a half hour for Aristotle. And you're going to sit there and wrestle with the book for 20 minutes. And that's all you're going to do. You're not going to check your email. And then when the timer dings, you can probably find a Pomodoro app if you need to have an app, but you could just get a timer.
I tell you, I recommend the timer because it doesn't require you to pick up your distracting device again. You just
Right.
twist the top of that mater and off it goes, I bought one at a junk store for $1. You'll find one.
Mm-hmm. And you just sit there. You say, I'm not going to get up. I'm going to keep wrestling with this. That 20 minutes ago will by pretty fast, and you'll be shocked at how much you've accomplished. And then it dings. And then if you need to, you can get up. You could check your email if you have to. Maybe you don't have to. Maybe you just rewind your timer and go another 20. But for that 20, that's all you're doing. And if you have family running around, you might say, don't talk to me until the thing dings, unless the house is burning down or there's armed invaders,
Right.
Just leave me alone. Because I have a bunch of kids and I love them, but there I am. I'm finally following the thread of Aristotle, and the kid comes up and says, do you know in Minecraft? I'm like, ugh. And then I have to stop and say, and you have to be there for your kids. And okay, tell me this thing that's interesting to you. But then I have to rewind. I have to start the lawnmower again and get back into Aristotle. And it takes me a long time. I'm not real good at that.
Yeah, it takes me a while, and I use my finger, Carl. I read with my finger. I follow my finger.
Oh, you mean on the page?
Yes, I can't sense the characters on the page with my. I follow along with my finger, and all of my reading teachers when I was in elementary school would not have liked that. They told us to not do that. They told us to not move your head. They didn't want you moving your mouth.
Yeah, but how much did they read?
Well, in the late 70s and early 80s, where I went to school, I distinctly remember this. They were driven. The teachers were driven to track our words per minute. Now we weren't really being tracked with that, but maybe there was an experiment going on at my school or something like that, and we were supposed to go fast. They used to have this special projector. It was like one of these opaque projectors, and you could put a book under there, and it would just show one word at a time. There was an open bar, a light bar that would just go across that, and it would pace you, and it would make you go faster and faster and faster, and the whole class had to read with this thing going across. I mean, they really pushed speed where I went to school. Yeah, around 1980. They got on to us about that stuff. BS.
Yeah.
Move your lips, follow with your finger, pan your head back and forth, whatever it takes to get through the thing is fine. There's no wrong way to do it except not.
There's a very funny, I think it's funny, bit in Augustine's Confessions where Augustine, this young man, he goes in to visit the Bishop Ambrose. He's afraid to interrupt him because Ambrose is in there reading, but he's reading silently. And Augustine thinks this is very weird.
Right.
So reading silently, reading without moving. If you have to move your lips, fine. If you want to read it out loud, fine. It's okay. You just got to read it.
I have to read some of it out loud.
I think poetry works better out loud. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you do what you have to do.
What do you make notes on, man?
Mostly, I make notes on things that bother me. Things that I don't automatically agree with.
Right.
That's the most interesting to me. I'll copy down quotes of things that I think are well said or important points, things that are the fulcrum of the argument. But if someone says something that I think is just crazy, I want to focus on that. Mm-hmm. We had this example last podcast where Aristotle says something about in order to be happy, you can't be ugly.
That ain't working for me. I'm writing that down.
Wait a minute. Can't everybody be happy? And then, so for me, that's an occasion for a lot of thought because I'm going to say Aristotle's not a moron and he's probably not malicious. Why is he saying this? How could it be true?
And him being Aristotle, he lets you know why.
And why am I taking offense with it? Sometimes the why of the question, the why it bugs you it's a really fertile field to plow. Like Achilles deciding that he's just not going to fight. Your immediate thought is perhaps he's being petty. He's being like a spoiled NFL player. Mm-hmm. And if it bugs you, that's where you should dig in and try to understand it, because there's a lot of understanding to be had there, because Achilles is not stupid. Homer's certainly not stupid.
Yeah, Homer ain't.
So he's presenting images of real people, and there's something there, and then you start to think, well, why should he fight? Why is it important at all that he fights? Why are we shocked when the soldier decides not to go off and get himself killed? And then maybe you start thinking about other, like war in general, and who bears the brunt of it. And so rather than saying, stupid Achilles, he's whining because his girl got taken away, maybe you start thinking other things.
Most of my notes fall in 3 categories. That one, stuff I disagree with or stuff that bumps me. In this case of Aristotle, because I'm going to be writing our readers' notes for the politics, I'm trying to capture all of his arguments, or at least the major arguments for each of the points he puts forth. There seem to be 8 major points. There's a chapter for each. And then the things I just don't even understand. So there are a lot of notes about that.
Yeah.
This passage from here to here, Becker number so-and-so to so-and-so. What? What is?
Do you spell that W-U-T?
Yes, sometimes.
Yeah, I like to write questions that you can ask yourself, or because I lead a lot of seminars, ask people in this seminar something that is striking and odd that can lead to thought, because that's what I want to have happen. Mm-hmm. That's part of the point to reading this stuff is, unlike, say, the latest HBO special, it's going to lead to thought. It's going to lead to you thinking more. I want to write down some of my thoughts on this. I'll just ask myself questions, and like on the ugly thing, I might say, well, but don't we spend a lot of money on plastic surgery? So I might argue for it. I might argue against it. I'm trying to see all the sides. I think that's a good thing to do. You call it steel manning rather than straw manning. I want to know all the sides of the argument. We see the truth somewhat obscurely.
If there's a piece that bumps you, or you disagree with, or you write in the margin WUT or DAFUQ, if you can state their case and do that Steelman thing, oftentimes you can pick apart the what of it. Oh, that's what he's getting at.
Yeah, and it's such a good thing to do rather than the usual way we deal with getting bumped, by taking offense and yelling.
Right.
Don't do that. Why does this person think this?
Yeah.
It's a much better practice.
And then of course I, if I'm reading one of these great books, there are people that listen to this that hate that we say that.
Great books, I'll say it.
Yeah,
they're great.
I will too. If I'm reading one of these, I assume that he's right and I'm wrong. These guys are way smarter than me. Way smarter than me. I come and sit at their foot. I believe that I have the intellect to decide for myself, but I give them the benefit of the doubt. If I run up against them and have a disagreement, I assume that I'm wrong until I prove that I'm not. If I read Freakonomics or whatever the kids are reading these days, that's not the approach I take.
Are the kids reading these days?
I don't know.
They wouldn't have copied these books. You have to understand how books are transmitted, especially before Gutenberg. They're transmitted by a person writing every single word down.
At enormous expense.
Like a 600-page Iliad. You've got to write every word of that. So the books that we have are books that somebody thought were valuable enough to pay for someone to sit down and write it. Yeah, either the church did it or somebody, a patron did it. They're probably pretty good.
Danielle Steele probably wouldn't make the handwritten cut.
Right.
Yeah. So I assume they're right, and then I dig until I'm pretty darn sure they're not, or they disabuse me of my silliness.
I assume that they're not stupid or malicious.
For sure. Yeah.
You have that thing with, is it Quine's rules for reading? Are you digging for that?
Yeah.
There's a way to read where you presume that
This is the only time I've ever agreed with Quine. Quine. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, Quine's Principles of Charity.
Yeah.
I think that he wrote these, or he stated these talking about actual discourse, speaking with someone else or having debate. And he says, you must assume the other uses words in the ordinary way. There's no trickery there.
Mm-hmm.
The other makes true statements, that the other makes valid arguments, and that the other says something interesting.
Yeah, no problem with that at all. That's the opposite of that. What we tend to do is we read from a point of view. We read looking for a proof text to confirm our own thought, or a proof text to show that somebody who's on some other team is a jackass. We're going to mine their Twitter feed for the thing they said in 2007, which will allow us to deplatform them or something like that. That would not be principles of charity.
Yeah.
You read to try to encounter a mind. You don't read to kill somebody. That's
gotchas.
Yeah. And if it's a person like Aristotle, there's not going to be a gotcha. There'll be a thing that you say, I don't think that's right. Let me read it more. And you might ultimately disagree. Fine. But you'll disagree intelligently with respect to the mind of this person.
With Aristotle, when you find you disagree, it's going to be because he carries like the four humors theory of biology, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a real smart person. You're probably not smarter.
I ain't. Here at Online Great Books, we try to set these reading goals for our clients that they can accomplish in 30 minutes per day, 6 days a week, and for the average person. So some people are going to be a little longer, and some people are going to be a little quicker. And so when I read one of these things, when I'm setting the reading goals for our clients, we have a reading list, but we actually go through the book again and set the reading goals and stuff. We add one a month. We didn't create a 120-month program before we opened the program, so we just stay 2 or 3 months ahead of our oldest group. So when I read them, I time them, and I've been working through Aristotle's Politics. First 6 pages took me an hour.
Yeah.
Since then, it's picked up enormously to probably 18 to 20 page an hour kind of pace. Part of it is he's really setting some heavy-duty groundwork at the beginning that I was being careful to, get my arms around. So part of it gets a little lighter, at least through the midsection of the book. Part of it is my problem with, anytime I pick up a new author, everybody writes with sort of a different rhythm, a different sort of vocabulary, a different style, and I'm always slow in the beginning, not on purpose, not purposely, but it's just I can't do anything else but be slow.
It's okay. It's like if you meet a new person, you have to learn a little bit of the personality.
Yeah.
Before you're going to understand what they're talking about. What if somebody's really sarcastic?
We don't.
It might take you a while to figure it out. Oh, he didn't mean that.
Yeah. So I do this. If you're listening, I reckon that you think we read well. So I'm telling you guys, I just cracked Aristotle, and it's not my first trip through the Politics. 6 pages in the first hour, 10 minutes a page.
That's reasonable.
So when you go through it, and if your pace is 4 pages an hour, that's your pace. That's cool, man. That's an hour well spent. Good for you. Don't get frustrated with that. Go slow, and it's okay.
A thought that comes back to me all the time. I get very offended. I get a little angry at the idea that this stuff is only for experts. That if you don't have a PhD,
so gross.
You don't need to read the classics. It's okay. We'll spoon feed you stuff. You don't need to read this stuff. Yeah, you do. And you might read like a drowning man. You might be struggling. It's okay. The struggle's a good struggle. I'm going to use another weightlifting analogy. All right. It's going to be, let's say you are a person who struggles a bit. Okay. Well, we have some helps for you. We got Marcia's got her class that you can take. What's that called?
What is that called? Reading Confidence course.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. You can do that. But if there's something good to do in your life that you're not very good at, but you do it anyway, that's of more value.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my weightlifting analogy is I'm not real good at the deadlift compared to my other stuff.
There you go.
I'm not real good at the deadlift. Every single pound of that I earned. It's like I'm not real good at Aristotle. Every bit of understanding I have of Aristotle, I have earned.
Yep.
And it's been worth it.
Yep. Aristotle, by the way, he doesn't make it hard. I mean, it's lovely and well laid out and elegant and not wordy and eminently understandable.
Yep.
He's just talking about important things that are really abstract. And he writes about a lot of things that the first time you read them, it will be the first time you've encountered the questions and the subject matter. So he has a lifetime of dealing with these things, and he wrote the questions for most of this stuff. And so when you crack that book open, he's comfortable with it, and it'll be the first time you've ever thought about what is a thing, or how do we know things are things, and just the unfamiliarity is gonna bump you, and it's worth doing. So when you say you earned every bit of Aristotle, it's not because he's inaccessible. It's just because he's so far ahead of us. He's a lizard person. He's an alien, man.
Yeah, I wonder what he was like. You get a little bit of his personality. I wonder what he was like. He was a Macedonian. He was not an Athenian.
Yeah.
He left town so lest the Athenians sin against philosophy a second time. He didn't stay to get poisoned.
Right. Good for him. I'm glad he did.
He didn't live too much longer after that. He had some kind of stomach problem.
They killed Plato and Jesus. That's plenty.
Well, they killed Socrates.
I'm sorry, Socrates. Yep.
Yeah.
See, they're the one and the same for me. Karl?
Yes.
I bought an aid to reading this weekend.
What aid to reading did you buy?
Well, I typically, and I think you agree with me, hate introductions, commentaries, Cliff Notes, Sparks Notes, YouTube videos, and other secondary sources.
Right.
I want to read the book, not a book about the book. I want to give myself an opportunity to encounter it. Remember, you can go back and listen to our show about The Loss of the Creature by Walker Percy. We want to give ourselves the opportunity to encounter it for ourselves, to stumble upon it and see it for what it is, without somebody giving us a guided tour where we get to see their highlights.
It'd be like instead of going on a date with your wife, you go on a date with her friend.
And she tells you all about her.
Yeah. That'd be ridiculous.
Right. And then I want to make notes on wait a minute. But look what I bought, Karl.
An index to Aristotle.
An index to Aristotle. Troy Wilson Organ in 1949 wrote this. I think it's the definitive global index to Aristotle.
I do not have that book.
It cost me $40, but there were some cheaper ones. But this was a first edition, and it was lovely, so I bought it. And it's got, it's an index to Aristotle, and it's all in here by Becker number, so it's through his whole opus. And man, it's just super cool. And this is going to be a big aid to my reading, but it's not a commentary. It just helps me find what I want to find.
Right.
I don't want to read I tell you what, my first real introduction to Aristotle, Mortimer Adler's book, Aristotle for Everyone. And it's a 250-page book with a little introduction to Aristotle's metaphysics and his logic and his ethics. And I wish I hadn't read the damn thing, Karl.
Right.
I love Mortimer Adler. I wish I hadn't read it.
Right. It makes you see things through the way the other guy sees it. And maybe he sees it pretty well, but it's still, you're looking through his glasses, not yours.
Yep.
Give yourself a chance to think about this stuff. Your first impressions might be the best impressions you ever have of it. We don't like secondary stuff. We don't like having it mediated. Go read the thing yourself. You are capable of doing this.
You are, guys. So I get you. These teachers and stuff, our experience in these schools have just led us to believe that we're not sufficient. You have to have somebody stand in front of the chalk between you and the chalkboard and tell you. When the books are there for us, you can do it. Not only can you do it, but you should do it. And then when you do it, you'll know that you can, and you're a different kind of person.
I will say more. If you want to live in a free democracy, you have to do it. You owe it to your community to be a thinker, not a follower.
Right.
You have to be able to do this stuff. Otherwise, you're just a puppet on somebody else's string.
Well, I'll tell you what. You might keep on breathing in and breathing out, and your heart might move the blood around in your body. But if you don't do this, you have a different kind of existence and a different kind of life than the person that does.
Yeah.
Colors are brighter, Karl. Food tastes better. Like you see things in a different, brighter, crisper way.
Yes, I think so.
And I said to Aristotle, he keeps asking these questions, and I'll run into these questions that he asks. I didn't even know to form the question. I mean, he's pointing at problems that I wasn't aware of. And so he's hipping me to these things, and it helps me see everything more clearly. So beautiful.
It's like when you're a kid, or even now, and you learn a new word.
So good.
A new concept, and you start seeing it everywhere.
Yep.
And you say, why is that word showing up? Well, it was there earlier. You just didn't know. You didn't know it.
It's like when you buy a white Honda Accord, and then you drive. Then all you see is white Honda Accords after that. They were always there.
Yeah, all I see are cop cars.
Right. Karl drives a cop car like the Blues Brothers.
Hey, it was thrifty. It's like the Coors Banquet. It's good enough, and it was cheap enough.
I like that.
I want to talk about the strategy. For me, what's really helpful, and I got this from Brett McKay, but it's from Eisenhower, the decision matrix. So a lot of our people have trouble finding the time to read. And the reason they have the trouble finding the time to read is because reading is important, but not urgent.
Yeah, it can always wait.
Yeah, so there's urgent things that are important, like gunshot wounds. There's urgent things, urgent things that are unimportant, like Facebook notifications.
Hey, I'm not poking fun. Do you think when your son runs up and says, "Hey, this thing in Minecraft," it's urgent and like weirdly important, unimportant? It's such a weird thing, you know?
It is important, but it could wait.
Yeah.
So I'll say, give me 20 minutes.
Let's table it.
So the urgent, important things you're going to do because you have to. The urgent, unimportant things you're going to do because we live in a world where we have things pinging us all the time. But you really need to shut those off. The non-urgent, important things, that's where non-urgent, unimportant, just don't do them. But the non-urgent, important things, these are things that don't nag you, that don't have to be done, like spending time with your family. If you're a churchgoer, reading your holy book, it's important, but it doesn't ping you. If you're in our program, reading your Aristotle, reading your Plato, it's part of, I think, the benefit of signing up with us is we make it a little more urgent because you've sunk some cash into it, so you're invested. And
peer pressure, too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a help. But those things that are important but not urgent, you need to schedule.
Yeah.
You need to schedule. Otherwise, you'll find a reason not to do it.
So good.
But it's the best part of your life is the stuff that is not demanding your immediate attention. It's the stuff that you choose to do. Pieper wrote a book, Leisure is the basis of culture. It's your free time. It's your leisure time. The stuff that you do because you want to do it. Pieper. That's where all the good stuff happens.
Pieper.
Yeah.
Have I told you my Pieper moment driving to work?
No.
2 years ago.
You had a Pieper moment?
One of them. I got in the car and I was headed to my office back when I had one. I plugged my phone into the stereo, whatever. And I was playing, I think it's Schumann's French horn works. I can't remember exactly which one it was. And I played French horn and was listening to that. And I thought, golly, those French horns. It used to be, you didn't have like the French horn with the rotary valves and the one you can play in two keys. Mm-hmm. It was, they had to like pull the horn apart and change, put these different size crooks in to change the length of the tubing to, play in a different key or play a different arpeggio or whatever. So a French horn player 400 years ago had a giant sack of all these U-shaped pieces of tubing.
You were basically a plumber.
You were basically a plumber. You had one like coiled piece of pipe, and you would make it longer or shorter with like modules and whatever. And so they couldn't really do much. And then they got the rotary valves, and they had the double-sided horn. They could play in two keys, F and B flat. And it's really a technologically advanced machine. I mean, it's like a sewing machine of a brass instrument. I mean, moving parts. It's really interesting. And I thought, and I just had, and it's, of course, it's lovely to hear. And I just had this thought of all of the man hours that it had taken to create that horn. I mean, thousands of leisure, millions of leisure hours.
Yeah.
Like from the first guy that napped a flint knife, it is a culmination of every technological advance and every thought that man had into that point to get to that horn. And I had to pull over at the gas station and be me and cry and cry and cry.
Well, yeah, it's like the viola of the brass section too. It's like a whole lot of pipe. Do you know how long the piping is on a French horn?
I don't.
I know a trumpet, which was my main axe, is 7 feet roughly of tubing, and I think the French horn is longer than that.
I'm going to say it's 3 times that. I'm looking it up.
But the mouthpiece is very small.
Very.
So you have a tiny mouthpiece for a great big bunch of pipe, which means that it is a tricky beast to play.
If you're really good, you can play a diatonic scale without the valves.
Yeah.
It's a mess, that horn.
Because you're way up in the harmonic range. You music nerds out there know what we're talking about. It's such a weird thing. I mean, the whole symphony is such a weird thing. I've been listening to a bunch of symphonies recently. To have, 30 people sitting in a room with a variety of instruments playing a coordinated piece, this takes a whole lot of leisure time so that Beethoven can write a symphony and have people perform it.
Somebody had to figure out how to salt pork. Every advancement that we made to get beyond the hunter-gatherer stage was required to free up the luxury, the free time, the extra resources so they could pursue the aesthetic.
So that on the Eisenhower grid, that non-urgent important stuff, that's what civilization is for.
A single-sided French horn is 12 feet long.
Yeah. Yeah, and the mouthpiece is probably half the size of a trumpet. So it's almost twice as much pipe, and it's about half as much mouthpiece.
Yeah, and you're going to add another 4 feet or something for a double-sided horn.
What's the takeaway for readers?
You got to do it.
I guess you owe it to the entire history of civilization to sit down with a book sometimes.
They're watching.
Well, I mean, it's like Chesterton calls it, tradition is the democracy of the dead. Because most of the people who ever lived are dead.
Yeah.
And they lived so that you could have the time to sit there and fiddle with your phone. Maybe you should do something else.
Yeah. And be patient with yourself. Make your notes. Be patient with yourself. Be okay with rereading. Move your lips. We talked about Charles Schulz. And I remember being a little kid and seeing this cartoon. And I think Lucy says Snoopy's not a very good reader. He moves his lips when he reads. But follow along with your finger. Use a straight edge. I can take an index card and like one line at a time. Do whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff they told you to not do, who cares? Do whatever it takes to get through it.
Right. They're not the boss of you. I'm looking through this Slack thread. There's too much to go through, but people have all these techniques. Malachi says he put the book under your pillow at night and then it go into your head. Well, it works for him because he sits there with no notes. He's super smart.
You need to join up so you can watch Malachi. Malachi sits on the couch, in the corner of the couch.
He might have a cocktail in his hand.
He might have a drink. And he turns the webcam on. He puts his headset on, and he just looks half asleep. And he's just sprawled out on the couch, one arm across the back of the couch, and one on the arm of the couch. He never looks at his notes, and he knows every single text I've ever talked to him about. He knew better than anyone I've ever spoken to him about. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You might want to look into his note-taking method.
He knows every text better than anybody else I've ever talked to about it. I haven't put him against Pascarella and Aristotle, but I bet that Malachi's understanding.
I might buy a ticket to that.
His understanding will be different, but similar in depth, I would say.
Yeah, you do whatever you have to. I like what Rory says. He tells his colleagues, "I'm having lunch with a friend and sit in the park with my book."
Yeah,
he goes to have lunch with a friend.
I wanted to say a word about Adler.
Yes.
When we started this program, we sent out a copy of Mortimer Adler's book, How to Read a Book, kind of as a gift. I wanted people to have it. There was some stuff we talked about, and Karl's like, I want them to have a nice, complete works of Plato. I'm like, you betcha. And I thought, well, I want them to have a copy of How to Read a Book because it's been so helpful to me. And we had been doing this about 90 or 120 days, and there were a bunch of people who said, I just kind of got caught up, and I've been reading How to Read a Book, and why didn't we start with that? How dare you? So we changed it. We made that the first book in the program, and I highly recommend that book to everyone. Adler has 4 questions for active readers. He says when you're reading, you should be thinking these things, thinking about these questions. They are, what is this book about as a whole? What is being said in detail and why? And you have to do these in order, guys. Is the book true in whole or part? And then 4, this is the most important one. What of it? What of it? What's the significance of this thing? When the rubber meets the road, what happened? What's happening as a result of this book? If you join our VIP waiting list, everything's a shill, you see. I'll send you a little executive summary of How to Read a Book. You need to go get How to Read a Book and check that out, because I think he gives people some really great nuts and bolts practical tips on how to be a better reader.
Yep. If you just did those 4 questions, this is low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
And you can get much better at this. It won't make you faster. It'll make you better.
It'll make you slower.
Right. It'll make you slower. Well, I have to caution people too sometimes. So we get to some texts that are, so far it's been Herodotus especially. In the histories, there's just so many stories and so many digressions that if you stop to try to figure out in detail, if you do that second step, what is being said in detail and why, you're going to be reading Herodotus for the next 30 years. So you read as we had a piece when I was in band. I had
nerds.
Yeah, I know. And the timing said, play as fast as possible. But no faster.
Well,
that was what the composer said. Play it as fast as possible, but no faster. So you read as slowly as you need to, but no slower.
I think Adler says you should read as quickly as possible, but no quicker.
Yeah. So you've got a whole chunk of Herodotus to read, and you've got a month to do it. Well, you're going to have to read at a certain speed and just not worry about it. And you get what you can get. It's okay. So Adler is wonderful, but don't let Adlerian perfection be the enemy of the good.
It certainly can be. But read, be patient with yourself, allow yourself to be eclectic in your reading style. You don't have to do what Miss Jenkins told you to do. And let the text be the measure of how well you're reading. If you get to the end of that 2 or 3 page little section there, and you can't say what it was about back to yourself, whatever you did wasn't quite good enough. Let's go back and hit that section again, and it's okay to go back and hit it again. If it's the inventory of ships in the Iliad, keep on trucking. Trust yourself to make some judgments about what you need to hit hard and what you don't need to hit hard. The chunks of Herodotus where he describes secondhand, by the way, all the biology of the Nile River Delta. Once you kind of get a taste of how odd that is, you could probably just plow through that pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
But then when you get to his story about Thermopylae, or some of the heavy duty stuff about Darius or whatever, slow down, man. Breathe it in. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else we're going to say about reading?
Do it. It's going to be among the best things you do in your life, honestly. We might ruin your life. You might, the ordinary stuff that normal folks do, you might find is less rewarding once you get into this.
If you have a really good ribeye, bologna's just not the same.
Yeah. Not even artisanal bologna.
Artisanal bologna. I don't know about maybe. Yeah, there's another Online Great Books podcast. Please go read, guys. Please go read. If you want to read with us, if you want that summary of how to read a book, I know I said don't read any secondary sources. I know, but you're going to read how to read a book, and then you'll have my summary. You can add it to your notes, maybe. Go to onlinegreatbooks.com, click join. Well, you can. How about this? Go to onlinegreatbooks.com/OGB podcast, and then join the waiting list there. We'll be opening enrollment again. I think it's on the first Monday of January, and we'll get you guys in the door and help you read along here. What else, Uncle Karl?
I think that's it. Yeah, I need to go order that desk. That's what I'm going to do.
You need an index to Aristotle, too.
Well, there's a reasonably good one in the back of the Oxford Complete Aristotle. It's pretty good. Here's trivia for you. One of the first hypertext documents was a complete edition, computer edition of all the works of Thomas Aquinas that you could search by word. They used to have a copy of it in the library in Marquette on a CD-ROM.
That's pretty cool. I was just looking at the index of parts, the index by the fathers of the English Dominican province. They've got an index that's expensive. But I kind of need it. I kind of need it a lot.
Just so you can look up a concept and see what everything that Aristotle has said about it. Yeah. That can be useful. Philosophers tend to use words in obscure ways that are particular to them, and they only you can't use the dictionary definition, although you do get the OED when you join us. Mm-hmm. But
the Oxford English Dictionary, that is.
People are going to use, like, what does Aristotle mean by the soul? It's not necessarily definition 3 from the OED.
No.
So you pull up soul in the index and you write down a bunch of the references. You go look them up. Well, he uses it this way here, this way there, this way that. And you try to get that's what he means by it. So that's one of the ways an index can be very useful. Because seeing a word in one spot, you might read it like you think of it rather than the way he thinks of it.
Well, there's another show. Thank you guys so much for listening. I believe that you'll be hearing this on Thanksgiving. So have a happy Thanksgiving. Please step past the pumpkin pie and have the pecan pie. It's the king of pies. The king of pies.
Nobody really likes pumpkin pie. Is that right?
That's true. It evokes memories of grandma's hugs and fond times with family. But if you don't have those associations, it's just a weird gourd paste.
Nobody has pumpkin pie in March.
No. If pumpkin pie was good, somebody would bring it to the Memorial Day cookout, but they don't because they're not tasty. If you go to a diner in July and that rotating thing with the fluorescent light above it, they're gonna have coconut cream, banana cream, chocolate. They'll have pecan. No gourd pie to be seen. They'll even have strawberry rhubarb, which is like weird celery. Oh, here's another one, guys. If you want my pumpkin pie recipe, though, you can go to barbell-logic.com/pie and get the world's best pumpkin pie recipe.
Does it contain pecans?
Yes. No pumpkin. It has no pumpkin in it.
All right. Should we wrap this up?
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. It means a lot to me. It really does. Thanks for listening on our conversation. It's just about my favorite part of the week to record this. I hope it's close to as much fun for you to hear it.
Thanks.
Thanks.